Being a Christian means to believe in a very particular God, the God of the Bible. Being Christian means being pursued by God. As a good shepherd would pursue his sheep, our God pursues us. But it's not enough to simply believe in God and be pursued by God, because we have a problem. Humanity has a problem. And our problem is that we're out of phase with God. We're out of sync, out of alignment with God. The Bible uses a particular word to define that state of being out of sync, out of alignment, out of phase. The Bible calls it sin. Paul writes about it in this way. He writes in Romans chapter 3, "All have sinned and fallen short of God's glory, but all are treated as righteous freely by His grace because of the ransom that was paid by Christ Jesus." So we have a problem. We're out of phase with God. But God has a solution. God makes us right. As Jesus is traveling along the road from the Galilee to Jerusalem, he encounters a woman who is terribly out of phase, out of sync with God. This woman had trouble with relationships. It tells us in John chapter 4 that she had been married 5 times previously, and the man that she was living with when she encountered Jesus was not her husband. She was also living among a people that were out of sync with God's instructions. They were worshiping in their own place, in their own way, and they were following more of their own instruction rather than the instructions of God. And so as Jesus is traveling along this road, he stops at a well, and his disciples go into town to buy something to eat. And as he's sitting there at the well, this woman comes to the well, and he asks her for a drink of water because he didn't have a bucket or he didn't have a jar in order to draw water up out of the well. And the woman expresses her surprise that he, a Jewish man, would ask her, a Samaritan woman, for a drink of water. And Jesus responds to her by saying, if you recognize God's gift and who is saying to you, "Give me some water to drink," you would be asking him, and he would give you living water. Now, it's an interesting phrase that Jesus uses, this idea of living water. It sort of had double meaning. Living water was considered water that flowed freely. Well water was a lot of work. You had to drop the bucket or the jar down into the well, and then you had to do the work of drawing it up out of the well. But living water was like spring water that just came out without any effort at all. Or it was a reference to stream water that just flowed along, and you didn't have to do any work in order to gain access to the water. And so living water was a reference to grace. You didn't have to work for it. You didn't have to earn it. It just came to you with no effort at all. Living water also had another sort of quality associated with it. It was that of purity. See, for the Jewish people, purity was an important thing. And so part of their process of coming to be purified was to take these ritualistic purification baths, or mikveh baths. And the water in that mikveh baths, in those mikveh baths, needed to be in part living water, water that flowed freely. And so Jesus is saying to this woman, if you knew who I was, then you would ask me for the free gift of purification that I could offer you. Jesus was offering her the opportunity to have her life realigned with God. And that what he had to offer, that living water, could wash away her sinfulness. So Jesus offers the woman at the well the free gift of purification. He offers her an opportunity to be realigned with God, to be brought back into relationship with the Creator of the universe. And in the same way that Jesus offers that gift to that woman, he also offers that gift to us. We too have the ability to be brought back into phase with God, to be brought back into alignment. In fact, if you were to talk to a pastor or a theologian in their desire to describe this process, they might use the word justifying grace, that idea of being brought back into alignment. Justification is probably not a word that we're real familiar with, but we use it quite often. If you use a computer or a word processor and you're typing and you want all that you type to adjust to the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen, you go up with your cursor and you click on those little buttons at the top of your screen, and it just realigns all that you have typed or written thus far. And those little buttons are the justification buttons. They're the buttons that bring the text into alignment. In the same way, justification takes place in our lives, that because of what Jesus has to offer us, we too can be adjusted, can be brought back into alignment with God. Now, the means of that, how that happens, is already taken care of. Jesus already did what it takes to bring us into alignment. He did that by going to the cross and by dying for humanity, and by taking our sinfulness, our out of phaseness with him to the cross. And so the gift is like living water. It is a free gift that purifies us when we find ourselves covered by what Jesus did in the cross. So the work has been done. We only have a small part as Christians. Christians are the ones who believe and accept that gift and acknowledge it. Paul writes about it this way in Romans chapter 10. Because if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, and in your heart you have faith that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Trusting with the heart leads to righteousness, and confessing with the mouth leads to salvation. Jesus did his part in going to the cross. He did his part in offering living water, the free gift of purification for us. All we need to do is believe in our heart. And the heart here isn't just a sense of feeling, but the heart here in the biblical sense is with one's whole being, believing that what Jesus did on the cross to make things right with God is applied to our lives, and publicly acknowledging that he is the one who offered us the living water, that he's the one that offered us the free gift of purification. A Christian is one who has been made right by Jesus.